Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let's get into some demonetization. Let me check my sound first. Anytime I do topics of war or something that takes place in Syria, this gets demonetized. Vanessa Beeley is a British journalist. I'm sorry, I'm bad at doing two things at once. Good, sound is okay. By the way, guys, if you like what's being put down here, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon, Super Chat, etc., etc. Always like to get that out of the way. Vanessa Beeley. So there's, if you want to know something, my thought is always, you can't really know anything that's outside of you for the most part unless you're there, you experience it. It's hard to actually know. The information that's coming into us is manufactured reality. It's somewhat shaped by the media, or by the media that we watch. And let's be honest, we have a certain disposition in the world, certain perspective. And that perspective is kind of nursed along. It's hard to make a determination on what's you, that's in you, versus what's outside of you. Those things become somewhat weird. But I guess my point is, it's hard to know what's taking place outside of you. Go to the source. It's one thing when you actually go to the source and you ask, as opposed to a manufactured reality that you're getting with media. Vanessa Beeley is a journalist from the UK. She ended up going to Syria, and she went to some of the areas that were liberated, if I'm not mistaken, by the Syrian army. This specifically Ghouta. Listen to one of the residents talk about what life was like under the terrorist state. And while you listen to this, understand that we have been supporting and protecting terrorists in that country for the past X number of years. That this war would now be over with if we had not been giving resources and munitions to terrorists for the last number of years. That this guy's experience may not have been as bad, or the very least not as lasted as long as we had not been giving weapons and munitions to terrorists for the last few years. Listen to his account of what it was like living in that situation, and I hope this comes through. Sometimes there's weirdness in the sound on these videos when they're not out of YouTube.
Yeah, what was life like? كيف كانت الحياة قبل؟
صعب كتير، مأساة كتير.
Very difficult, very tragic.
It was Nusra Frontier, obviously.
كانت النصرة غالبيا النصرة هن اللي حاكمينهم؟
النصرة وجيش الإسلام.
عن جيش الإسلام.
Okay.
نعم.
Were they fighting each other or were they working together?
كانوا عم يقاتلوا بعض ولا كانوا عم يشتغلوا مع بعض؟
لا يقتلوا بعض، كانوا أعداء بعض كتير.
They were fighting each other. They were enemies.
Okay. So what were the worst things for him?
شو كان أسوأ شيء بالنسبة لك بهذيك الفترة؟
المعيشة والتعامل.
Living and the treatment. They were treated badly.
في أطفال بالموضوع، يعني أولادي وأولاد
My
الناس.
children and others.
المعيشة والتعامل سيء.
كيف كانت مشكلة الأطفال؟ كيف كانوا يعاملوهم يعني؟
لا قطع الأكل، مواد غذائية عنهم، الأدوية، أهم شيء الأدوية.
And medicine for children.
And the terrorists had the food and they weren't giving it?
يعني هن كان معهم الأكل والأدوية وما عطوكم؟
إيه.
Yeah.
مستولين عليها.
Yeah, they took it. They took all the medicine and the food.
بعد خروجهم من هون لقينا أغذية كتير لا يصاف، أدوية لا يصاف. الأدوية
after their evacuation we found, or after they leave this area, we found a lot of medicine, a lot of food. It was like incredible, huge amount. We used to have a girl who suffered from the lack of the medicine, and she died over there.
I'm so sorry.
الله يرحمها.
تعيشي. هاي المأساة اللي مرينا فيها.
This is my tragedy. This is.
كشفنا مستودعات كتير تحوي أدوية كانت ضرورية للأطفال بالذات.
Which was really necessary for these children and.
وأغذية يعني.
قد إيه كان عمرها؟
16 سنة.
16 years old.
نعم. فحاولت ناخذها على الشام، مريت على الشام، بس الحواجز من جيش الإسلام كانت تتعرض كثير للمأساة.
جيش الإسلام تشيك بوينت won't let us go. ما خلوكم يروحوا.
ما يخلوا، إلا روح غسيل، في عنا آليات، ليش لا تروح تغسل عند النظام، ليش كذا. ما أنا طبعا أنا ما أحسن أتعرض، أنا اللي بياخذ ويعطي محل.
Why do you want to take her to a regime hospital? We have our own hospital.
But they didn't treat her.
No, and the other thing that it wasn't him, it was her mother, because he can't go to a Jewish Islam checkpoint.
No.
Okay.
How does he feel now?
كيف إحساسك هلا؟
هلا الحمد لله كأنه يعني مثل الطفل اللي ولد من جديد.
Like a child.
أنا عم أحكي لبرا وعم أعطي اتصالاتي للخارج إنه فعلا إحنا ولدنا من جديد.
All of the people out this area and saying
لأنه خربوا البلد، دمروا الوطن.
They destroyed the
هلا
country
كأنه يعني ماشيين بحرية قبل ما كان في حرية نمشي فيها.
I can walk freely. Before I couldn't even walk freely in the street.
I hope you guys can hear this. This is like really difficult to hear even for me. So I don't necessarily know when your government is playing the villain. Okay. I don't necessarily, I hope you guys can hear this. So I'm going to keep plowing along with this. But he effectively said he felt like a newborn child because he had the capacity to essentially walk free. He couldn't walk freely in the streets prior. Now he could do so. Let's let him keep going.
كان أصغر عنصر فيه هين تعرضنا ما نجاوب معه أخذ أوامر بإطلاق النار مباشر.
He has like he can just shoot us immediately. He has the order to shoot us immediately. We couldn't even move freely.
What would his message be to people in the West who still believe that these terrorists are bringing freedom and
شو رسالتك للغرب يلي لهلا عم بيقول إنه أو لهلا مقتنع إنه هدول الناس عم يجيبوا الحرية لهي البلد؟
هي الناس اللي من أهل النصرة فرضان؟
لا هي رسالتك للغرب للدول الغربية لأمريكا أوروبا هدول شو رسالتك لإلهم؟ هم مقتنعين إنه هاي معارضة وإنه عم تجيب حرية.
This is awesome to me. Okay, maybe I'm perceiving this wrong, but it seems like if you're having a conversation with somebody and you ask someone something that's so absurd that you have to explain it to them again in more verbose terms because of the absurdity of the statement that you gave him. This man has been living in a war zone. He's been living in a war zone where he knows these terrorists are there. He's been living under terrorist rule for God knows how long. And he knows that the United States, Qatar, Saudi Arabia has been supporting these terrorists that essentially has been keeping children or medicine from children and from babies. And she's asking him, do you believe that essentially these terrorists are going to somehow bring freedom to Syria? And his response is somewhat incredulous, and she has to further explain. Let's let him keep going. Like I said, I hope you guys can hear this.
لا ما هو نحن بهمنا ان نعيش بسلام واطمئنان وهذا اللي بدنا اياه نحن. هاي اللي بدنا اياه. في إن ناس تشردت بسبب المعيشات والمأساة كثير. فبعد وطنه ما في واحد. لا أمريكا ولا السعودية. هي أنا بوجه رسالتي للعرب ولا قطر. راح
will bring us any freedom.
في الشعب السوري.
or benefits the Syrian Arab people.
هي بصراحة.
This is me being honest.
اللي ساعة بخراب البلد هي أمريكا وإسرائيل والسعودية بالذات. أنا هي بوجه رسالتي.
and Israel and Saudi Arabia.
قطر وتركيا معروفين الدول العربية.
and Qatar and Turkey.
نعم.
And by the way, the ridiculousness of the idea that Saudi Arabia, that is this theocratic kingdom, where the people are not free, Qatar, where the people are not free, are talking about bringing freedom to this country, in Israel, that has Palestine literally in an open-air ghetto. It's talking about the freedom of Syria is hilarious and nonsense. And this guy who's asked this question is incredulous about this. You may not understand what he's saying, but you can look at the rapidity of what he's saying. Human beings are human beings. How he's responding to this question gets across this thing of, you're asking me if the terrorists that I've lived under for all of these years is going to potentially bring freedom? Why are you asking me such a stupid question? And she probably has to explain to him that's the American perspective of what's taking place. Oh, God, that sucks. Let's let him keep going. It's almost done.
والحمد لله.
شكرا.
يعني عن جد يعني هلا عن جد يعني في مقابل كنا ماشيين بحرية لا يوصف بالتعامل.
My feeling I can't describe my feeling because walking freely is
الشعب بالغوطة كان بده يقعد بس تخويف من العناصر الجبهة.
All the people in Ghouta want
والجيش
to stay
الإسلام
in Ghouta,
خوف الناس خلى 3/4
الغوطة جيش الإسلام
جبهة النصر
جبهة النصرة فرونت
عرضوا يعني وجهوا الرعب للناس مشان تطلع على
إدلب. They were
terrifying
people to go to Idlib.
وأنا عم أعطي اتصالاتي للخارج
Now I'm trying to contact
إنه نحن فعلا أمان واطمئنان وتعامل وإنسانية
like a better life and we are living freely.
So is he saying some people were forced to leave?
Because they were convinced that they scared them. They convinced them that Idlib is a better place than living under the Syrian government rule.
Okay.
أي شيء أنا على عيني تشرفتوا. أنا انبسطت بالمقابلة عن جد. أنا كان بدي من زمان تصير مقابلة هيك بس أنا فضيت الغليل اللي بقلبي. أنا مو مشان شيء، أنا مشان بنتي اللي صبية كانت
الله يرحمها يا رب
تعيشي من قلة الأدوية. يعني فعلا بآخر تطلعن من هون ونقلعوا يعني ما بقول غير هيك. كشفنا إن في أدوية كانت مخبين عن الناس كانت ضرورية كتير كتير لمين؟ للرضيع بالذات للرضيع. يعني مثل أول روز مثل المسكنات مثل الاشغالات كتير. وانا الحمد لله انا اعتراض مالي يعني الحمد لله انا رضيان بحكم رب العالمين انه راحت البنت بس في سبب راحت فيه هو قله الادويه وقله الغذاء.
الله يرحمه يا رب.
وعندي الصغير اخر مرحله كمان صار يعني سوء تغذيه لا يوصف فيه.
His other child has malnutrition and it was like a bad situation.
الحمد لله كل حال. الحمد لله ان رجعنا لحدنا الوطن.
الحمد لله يا رب. يعني شو بدنا نقول؟
الحمد لله استفادت الله رحمه. الحمد لله.
I have a hard time hearing some of this, so I'm going to put the original video at the bottom in case you guys have a better sound system, and it's possible that it came through the speakers a little bit better than what came through mine. I have to play it a particular way in order to hear it. Look, here's the thing. I watched this video, and as I watched this man, and he's annoyed by the process of he's annoyed by the process of the United States, another country, instigating itself into his country. I sit here having to deal with a Russia hysteria in this country. The basis of the argument being that some other country instigated itself by putting Facebook and Twitter ads in our election, and those Facebook and Twitter ads enticed people so much that those people went out and voted for Donald Trump. This is nonsense and lunacy, but this is what they go with in order to assuage their own fears and failures. But in the context of that, we had a Democratic president, Barack Obama, making a determination on his own that he wants Bashar al-Assad out of that seat, and that he, for whatever reason, as an American president, should have to say so to do that. In which case, he's going to make other people's lives hellish, utterly hellish. What this guy's describing, a hellish environment, by putting weapons and munitions to terrorists. He could have given that money to the homeowners as opposed to giving that money to terrorists, but he decided to give that money and weapons and resources to terrorists. And in giving it, creating more of a hellish environment that this gentleman had to live through. That person who also decided to destroy Libya, making decisions on his own to destroy other countries, other governments in their entirety. The person the party who's affiliated with that guy complains about Facebook and Twitter ads. This is profoundly stupid. So, and I don't mean to make a detour into the Russia thing, but I'm sorry, this gets across how stupid the Russia thing is. This guy is lived under terrorist rule, a terrorist rule that we supported, that should chill you to the bone and question whether or not this is what you want your country to be involved in. This is profoundly gross and profoundly disturbing. It's profoundly disturbing that we ourselves think it's okay to topple other governments, and it becomes profoundly hypocritical the moment that you turn around and say, oh my God, they put Facebook and Twitter ads. And that's why Donald Trump got elected, because of Facebook and Twitter ads, more than half of which appearing after the election. It's amazing. Wesley Walker, Jamal, thanks. Congrats on the 12K subs. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Congratulations on the 12,000. Yeah, I hit 12,000. Slowly but surely trucking upwards, slowly but surely. 100,000 just around the corner. We just watched and comment, then go back to sustaining ourselves ad nauseum. The media simultaneously goes through its cycles, creating heroes out of whoever it's running for office. Yeah, it does. It cycles. Gardner, that's strange. I can hear it fine. No one else. Yeah, I had a hard time hearing this part. What I would do is, the link is at the bottom so you guys can hear it for yourselves. And I'm pretty sure there are other videos that are out there where the person is talking about what was life like in this kind of occupied territory where the terrorists were occupying that region, and what was life like after it was liberated. And you talk to those people and get their particular disposition, because at the end of the day, we're talking about Syrians. They are living there. They are living in those hellish conditions. What do they have to say? And is what the United States, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Turkey, what all of them are bringing from the standpoint of instigating themselves into Syria, really what those people want? Seeing as those people are backing the terrorists, I would say it is probably not. So I will leave it here. The world is waking up to your voice of reason. Terry Hall, I appreciate it. I just try to give you my perspective and what I think, and I try to be fair. I try to be. I don't know. I'm not always accurate, or at the very least, sometimes I get. That's not right either. There's no such thing as objectivity. I try to be honest about it. Let's say it that way. I try to be biased to a particular principle and stay with that. This kind of humanistic concerns, and just say this is what I see based on humanistic concerns. That's it. If I have a bias in it, I tell you my bias in it. That's the way I try to go about this. Now, there are things that I want in the world, but there are things everybody wants in the world. And oftentimes you try to battle the principle battles up against the things that you want in the world. But I try to be open. I try to be honest. I try to be transparent in the way I go about it. So I appreciate it. All right, guys. I will end it here. Wesley Walker, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. And I know I'm doing these relatively quickly today, but I'm doing them because I need to get them out the way, because I'm going to the Left Forum. My bus leaves tonight. I thought about driving, taking my little mini on a road trip, but I used to drive to New York when I used to live in Poughkeepsie, New York. A 7.5 hour drive. I used to make that trip every so often. I hated it every time I made that trip. I always kept thinking of the better things that I could be doing as opposed to sitting behind the wheel of the car. And then I also thought, this is dangerous territory because I could be pulled over by a cop at any particular moment, and cops are dangerous maniacs. I thought a bus was always a better alternative by just kind of allowing me to not be part of the process. The problem is, anytime you want to go from point A to point B, you have to either get an Uber or you have to get the taxi or something else that gets you from point A to point B. That always becomes a pain in the ass. And last time I was at the Left Forum, I missed my fucking bus. I missed my bus. I got the Chinese bus to go from point A to point B. And I was talking to a subscriber. And he was talking about something that he was doing, some kind of computer program. And I knew I had a bus to catch, but at the same time, I didn't necessarily want to break away in a rude way. And I get in my taxi, and my taxi breakneck speed to try to get there, and the Chinese bus is pulling off as I get there. You're talking about pain. And I'm not being racist. It's actually called the Chinese bus, just for people to know. Garnome, I hate even driving to New York. Toll roads, yeah. Same. It's annoying. Driving to New York would take me a couple of days. Hello, jerk. You must be in California somewhere. Yeah, I'm in Virginia, so it's about 6 hours. It's not too bad, but New York traffic is painful. Going through DC is painful, like from 95. So yeah, I would rather to just catch a bus as opposed to drive. I'll end this here. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. And Wesley, thank you again, man. I appreciate your help as always. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.